Okay, good morning, everyone. Today we'll be talking about using the Groups tool. And the Groups tool is all about encouraging student collaboration in your course. It's a great tool if you have a large number of enrollments and you want to be able to break down your your students into smaller groups. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to deviate a little bit from my normal, and I'm going to jump into the student view of things, and it'll give us a nice perspective of what the student will see, and then we'll jump into how to set that up. So right now I'm logged in as a student, and I'm in my course, and I'm going to scroll down a little bit on my course menu, and I've got this section called My Groups at the bottom here. Now, it lists a couple of different groups I've been added to in my course, and I'm going to click on the one that says Team Blue, and it has some options here, and I'm going to jump right to my group homepage. Now, the group homepage for the student has a few modules in it. It lists which students are in my group, and there's a group description as well. And I can see right here, my instructor has put this description in that Team Blue will be responsible for all even numbered labs. And I can see that there's 4 of us in the group here. What's great about this group members list is this little chevron next to it. I can click on that, and I've got this option. I can email everybody in my group by clicking that. It'll send me to the email tool in Blackboard, and I can select one or more of the members of my group and create a subject and a message to send to them. And I can even include an attachment if I want to. So great way for quick communication for the students. And then below that, we've got this group tools area. And this shows me all the tools that I have accessible to me right now in this group area. All these links also appear in my course menu on the left, but it's also very convenient to have it right here in this little module. The file exchange is a way for the students to post files in a place where they can share them. We can see here there's already a file that I've posted, and any other student in my group, when they come to their groups area and they go to the file exchange, they'll be able to access it, download it, what have you. They can add a file just by clicking this Add File button. And then it's the standard, give it a name and browse my computer for the file and add it to the collection. And then we have some familiar looking things, the blog, the discussion board, journal, and wiki. Now, these things are only specific to this group. So if I go to a group discussion board, I see this Team Blue forum. There's not anything in it right now, but only the members of my group can click on that and see it. Likewise, if the instructor has made it possible, I can create forums, and any forums I create in this area will only be accessible by people in my group. So if the instructor wants to create a graded group discussion, this would be a great way to go about doing that. And then likewise, the blogs, journals, and wikis, they're all specific to this group in this area. So the wiki is normally a course-wide collaboration, but by using a group, this wiki that we work on here will only be accessible by people in this group. Oops, I jumped to the wrong place, but that's okay. We'll go right back to our group homepage. And then again, we have the send email tool right here as well. And then the last module, probably the most important one, is the group assignments. Now, these are assignments that have been created for this group. And the most important thing to know about this is when one student submits an assignment for a group assignment, it is submitted for the entire group. So if I went to my project flowchart and I can see here I've already submitted something. This is our completed flowchart. The budget is 41, and I can see on the right-hand side under attempts that the instructor has given us a 75. Now this grade is applied to the entire group. This submission was for the entire group. So once one student submits an assignment, it gets submitted for the whole group, and no other student in that group can submit again. I'm going to jump back to my group area, my group homepage, and I'll go to this group presentation outline. Now there's another assignment. Now nothing's been submitted yet for this. I can see the points possible. This is just like looking at a normal assignment submission area. However, once I submit something here, it gets submitted for the entire group. And I'll just use the right submission and put some gobbledygook in here, and we're going to submit this. And what I want to show you here is that when it gets submitted, the student does get a warning that the work is being submitted for the entire group, and do they want to continue? If they do, it will then be submitted, and then the instructor could come in and grade it. And when they do, the grade gets applied to the whole group. Okay, and so that's just the student view of things. You can see I'm also in another group here called Debate Teams 3, and I have very similar setup in this menu. Oh, the last couple of things I did want to mention are these customized group banner and customized group color. What that does is for the group homepage area, it allows the students to create a banner or set up a color theme for the area if they wanted to, and this is really just something a little fun for the students if they want to create a special area for their group. You know, they could apply this little color scheme, and in their group's area, when they go there, their group's homepage rather, they'll have a special color scheme for it. On the you'll see that all the links are in the text boxes are all specially colored. It's just a fun little thing, and that doesn't have to be enabled. If likewise, they can add a banner, they could put a big image up, or they can even do something like change the text and say "We are the best." When they submit that, we'll see right at the top of the screen here, their banner has been changed to "We are the best." They could put an image up there, and it's really up to you when you're setting up the groups, whether you want to allow them to stylize their areas. It only affects the one group, not. So like here, I can see all the colors have been changed, but if I go to my debates team homepage, it's all default colors. I can see that the title is just Debate Teams 3. So it's just a fun thing for the students to do if you want to allow them to do that. It's a great way to allow them to, add more collaboration and whatnot. So that's the student view of the groups area. So I'm going to jump out of my student account, and I'm going to pop into my faculty account. I'm going to go back to that course. And now we're going to take a look at how we create these groups and how we set these different options. And so in my control panel in my course, there's a section called users and groups. And just a quick side note on this users link, when I click on that, what it does is it shows me all the users in my course, all the students, and not just students, but if there are other instructors in the course or teaching assistants or builders, they'll all show up in this list. You can, in theory, remove them from the course. I highly discourage you from doing that. If you do remove somebody from your course, keep in mind it will also delete any grades that have been added to the grade center for that user. So you definitely want to tread with care when you do that. You can also look for users to enroll into your course. If you want to add some people that aren't part of the normal enrollment, but maybe somebody's auditing your course, or you even want to allow somebody to observe a little bit, you can click on this Find Users to Enroll button and browse for people and add them by last name, and you can even assign them a role as student, instructor, etc., and then submit, and it will add them to the enrollment for the course. That was just a quick side note on that, users. So we're going to jump to groups. All right, in my groups area, you can see I already have a bunch of groups set up. And I just want to go through the quick layout of this area. We can see the list of names of the groups. And we can see that some of these groups are part of a group set, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. And we can see how many members are enrolled in each group, whether the group is a self-enrollment group or something I've enrolled the students into. So if it says no, then I've manually enrolled the students. If it's a yes, then the students can self-enroll into that group. And then we can see if the group is available or not to students. We've got some action buttons here as well. Our bulk actions will allow us to delete a group from our list, which will completely remove it and disband it. A smart view for a group is sort of a quick way to look at the grade center for just that group. And then the view options allows us we can look at the tool availability for a group. So if I click on, say, Team Blue, we were looking at as a student earlier, and I look at their tool availability, I see which tools I turned on for them. So blogs, discussion boards, email, those are all available to them. But here I could see that tasks I turned off for that group, and like academic materials is turned off for that group, etc. And then we can also show the group's code. The code is automatically generated when you create the group. And it's really a reference on the back end of Blackboard. But if for some reason you need to know the code for that group, you will get it right here. And this exists for groups that you create manually. If the group is part of a group set, then they don't get a group code. We'll talk more about group sets in a little bit. So those are just what the action buttons do. You can export groups and import them into another course. So you can create a setup for a group, which includes, which tools are available and whatnot, and then you can export it and use that setting to import to other courses. So if you have multiple courses they're just separate sections of the same course, you could export your groups and import them into all the other courses, and that way you don't have to recreate them from scratch. So let's talk about creating a group. I'm going to go up here right to this create button, and the first kind of group we're going to start with is a manual enroll. So when I go here, I'm going to give the group a name. We're going to call this one Team Red. And then we give a description to the group. This is whatever you want this group to be, how you want them to operate. Instructions. You can you have the full text box editor here, so you can include links to files, images. You can include videos. So whatever you want to say about the group here, you want to add. So we could say that, you're going to be, this group is responsible for all odd number labs. And this description will appear to the students when they look at their group homepage. And do we want to allow this group to be visible to the students, which means will they be able to see the group? Will they be able to see who's in the group? I'm going to leave it to yes. Occasionally, you want to leave it to no if you don't want the students to be able to access the group right away. And then we get to our tool availability area. And these are which tools do we want this group to be able to use. I'm going to turn off a few here. They don't need access to the content market tools. And they don't need access to this Blackboard Collaborate Ultra because we don't use it here at NEC. Likewise, the academic materials. I'll leave tasks turned on though. That's not a bad one to have. And I'll leave the others because I want a lot of collaboration in this group and I want them to be able to use different tools to do that. So the setup for each of the individual tools is just like if you were setting it up normally. For instance, if you have a discussion board area, do we want to allow any group member to create a forum, or do we not want to allow the students to be able to create forums, in which case only you could create the forums and they can then respond to the forums. And then if you want to grade your blog area, journal area, or wiki area, you can set that as well. And this is pretty standard for everything we do in Blackboard. So if we're going to have a blog area, we can enter a grade value. We can apply a rubric if we want. Now, this is a blog area just for this group, and these points possible is applied right to the blog area for that group. And we get then once we're finished with setting all our different tool availabilities, module personalization setting. Do we want to allow the students to be able to personalize the module? The modules are those boxes that contain those different items we were looking at in the group homepage. So if we want to allow them to move them around, they actually would have the ability also to add more modules. So there are certain tools they could create modules for. I'm going to leave it checked off so the students can move them around. I want them to feel like they're all part of this process. Our group options, do we want to create a smart view for this group? Always a good idea to create a smart view for the group. It gives you an extra view in your grade center to view just it adds different color codings and things so you can see the groups and how they're ordered and what assignments are applied to them. And I'll show you what that looks like in a little bit. And then lastly, the membership. This is an important area because this is a manual group. This means we have to, as the instructor, add the students manually to this group. So when I click this add users, we need to decide which students will be in this group, how many are going to be in this group. So I'm going to add 4 members of my course to this group. Just pick my last 4 here. Team Blue had the first 4 people listed, and this is all listed alphabetically by a last name, or it was last name. It's all by username. So I'm going to add the last 4 since the other group was the first 4, and I'm going to submit my selections. And we can see in our membership area, we now have a list of members. We could quickly remove them if we decide to by going to this red X on the right-hand side and clicking that, and it'll remove the user. You can also remove all the users by clicking this remove all users button that appears right at the top area here. And you could add more if you want. Once you finish all your settings, You can then submit. And now we have our team red right here. We can see that there are 4 people enrolled. It's not a self-enrolled group, and it is available. And if I need to change anything, like everything we do in Blackboard, there's usually a little contextual menu that appears when you hover next to the item. You can click on the chevron, and we can open the group up. We can go and edit the group settings. We can email that group, which means I would just we'd go to the email tool and then just include the members of that group. We could get rid of it, or we could look at the smart view of it, which just shows you some, this is what we were talking about earlier, creating a smart view for the group. So this is the grade center just for this group, which is a quick and handy tool. And that's what the smart view gets you. I'm just going to jump back to my groups area here. So that is a manual group. So manual enroll means we as the instructor set who is in the group. Excuse me. Now you can create a self-enroll group. Process is exactly the same except for the enrollments part. Actually, right here where it says group is visible to the students. So let's give this group a name. This is going to be Team Orange. Now, to third option here. So by saying no, the group is not, the students wouldn't be able to see the group. They wouldn't be able to sign into the group. If we set it to yes, then the students can see the group. They can see who's signed up for the group. And if they want to, because this is a self-enrolled group, they can click a button to self-enroll themselves. Optionally, we can say the sign up sheet only, which would allow them to be able to join the group, but they wouldn't be able to see who's in the group. So if we want to create a group with self-enrollment, but we want to avoid all the students' best friends joining at the same time, we could use just the sign up sheet only. And that would allow them to join, but they wouldn't be able to see the members until the group is filled up. So I'm going to just leave it to yes. They'll be able to see who's in it, and they'll be able to sign up at the same time. And then, of course, the tool availability, exactly the same thing. And then do we want to allow personalization? Now we get to the area where normally we'd see our enrollments for a manual enroll, but here, because it is self-enrollment, this means the students will have a sign-up sheet. We need to give this sign-up sheet a name. I'll keep it simple, Orange Team sign up. And then we can add instructions here, and this is just telling the students how we want them to go about signing up. Just click the sign up button. But more importantly, if you want other instructions in here, like which groups you want to advise them, you can't join a group if, for instance, your lab partner's in the group or something similar like that. You could add all the instructions you want here. And again, you have the whole text box editor tools. So you can include, again, files and images, etc. And then we want to set how many students we want to allow to sign up for this group. I want to keep like an even number of people in my different groups, so I'm going to say 4. So maximum number of 4 students can be in this group. We want to allow students to see names of other members in the group before they sign up? Sure. And do we want to allow students to sign up from the groups listing page? Yes. If you turn this off, there's the students wouldn't be able to sign up from the groups listing page. You'd have to give them a link to sign up to the group. So it's easier to leave it this way, but you can turn this off as long as you know later you're going to have to go and set up a link for the students to follow to go and sign up. And then our group options, do you want to create a smart view for this group? I like the smart views. It's a very handy tool, so I'm going to create one. And I'm going to submit. And the group has been created, orange group. Right now there's nobody enrolled because no one has signed up. There it is a self-enrolled course. And yes, and I meant to show you self-enrollment as a student. So I'm going to just jump over to my student account real quick and show you. Helps if I don't mess up my password. I'll show you real quick what self-enrolling looks like on the student's end. If they go to my groups page, actually, if they go to the tools area, and you could create a link for signups for the groups area for the students. But if they go their tools section, they can go to this groups area. And when they go, they'll see a list of different groups in the course. See where so we see a couple here: green team and team orange. They have sign up buttons available to them. So team orange we just created. I want to sign up, so I'm going to click on the sign up button, and then I get a little synopsis. This is the name of the sign up sheets. Here are the instructions I entered. Click the sign up button. I can see that nobody's signed up yet, and there's a max number of 4 people for this group. I'm going to sign up, and now I'm in the group. Right now my group member list only includes myself, but as people sign up, they'll be added to this area. I'll jump back to my instructor. All right. Ooh. And we'll go back to our groups area. So we've looked at, creating a group with manual enrollment, meaning we create who's in the group, and self-enrollment, which allows the students to sign up individually. Now, if you're going to create, if you want to create a set of groups and automatically create multiple groups, say you have, you're going to have a group project in the course, you want to split the class up, and everybody's going to be working on the same group project, just in their group. Instead of creating an individual group for each one of those groups, you can create what's called a group set. And all that really does is create a bunch of groups all at once with all the same settings. So I'm going to go to my create button. I'm going to come to this group set list, and I'll start with a manual enroll. And first, so now we need a name for the group sets. So we'll call this group project. And the description, this is the group. This is your group for your group project. You can put, again, you can put anything in here. You can put a bunch of instructions. You can add images and links and files. Do we want to allow the groups to be visible? Yep. And so this is pretty standard stuff. We've already seen this multiple times. Which tools do we want available to this group? I'm going to turn a couple of these off. Do we want to allow them to personalize the modules? Yep. Okay, now we get down to our group set options. Now we're creating a set of groups, and how many groups do we want? So I'm going to create 3 groups, and I'm going to create a smart view for each group. And when I submit that, I get to this secondary area. This is where we're going to add our users. Because this is a manual enrollment, that means we've got to set the enrollments. So we can see already we're displaying the name of the group we gave for the group sets, group project. We've got our description for our group set. And then we get to the enrollments area. So we can hide members already in another group in this sense. Right now we haven't added anybody, so it doesn't apply too much, but you can turn this off. So you'd be able to add the same member to multiple groups, maybe. I'm going to click that so we don't accidentally add somebody to multiple groups. Now, we have a couple of options here. We can randomize the enrollments, which means this will automatically split the group up into a number of try to get an equal number of users. When you click the button, it will give you this pop-up. And it'll ask you how you want to add the users. Do you want randomly enroll only student users? Do you want to randomly enroll all users? So if you have TAs or extra instructors, it would add them to the groups. I'm just going to add student users, and I'm going to submit that. And you can see the different groups in my group set all have users added to them now. You will occasionally get a question asking you if what you want to do with the extra users. Sometimes when you have extra users, it won't be able to split them up evenly. It'll ask if you want to add them to the existing groups or if you want to create a separate group with those extra users. And by default, when you create a group set, it gives each group the same name, but just numbered. So the name of this set was Group Project, and I have Group Project 1, Group Project 2, Group Project 3. You can change those names if you want to. And then if you don't like who ended up in the groups, you can remove them and add users. You don't have to use the randomize enrollments either. You can use this add users button to select specific users to go into each group. And once you've decided who's in the groups and you're finished with that, and if you like the group names, you can submit all that. And here we see in our groups list, group projects 1, 2, and 3. We can see they're part of this group project sets, and we can see there are people enrolled in them. Now you can do exactly the same thing, except you can do a self-enrolled group sets, which allows, again, the students to sign up for the groups. But the process is pretty much exactly the same. So the group set is a great way if you want to create a set of groups for the same thing with the same tools available, and you can create them all at once, fast and easy, and they will all kind of be linked together. Only you can and that way you can list the groups inside that set. And see who's in each one. You can edit and set the properties of the set. You can edit the memberships, and then you can email the group set, which is a great way to email everybody in all the groups in that set. So if, for these debate teams, say we have a big debate coming up, and I can email the group set, which will email everybody in these groups. That are linked to debate teams. And likewise, you can always delete the group set. If you do delete the group set, if I delete debate teams, it'll delete every group associated with debate teams. So you want to make sure you really want to do that. All right. So for the most part, a group set works pretty much like a normal group. It's just it creates more than one group at once. Okay. Random enroll. One, I wanted to. Yeah. Okay. So on the group's creation. you can see that the group set has one extra item in this list that single groups don't, and that's the random enroll. And we kind of did that already with manual enroll, but I want to show you what random enroll does for you. Instead of bringing you to the enrollment page like we did on manual, this will just automatically randomly assign students to the different groups we create. We're going to create a new group set called Crazy Groups. And I'll say these groups are just for fun. And again, I'll just go through my settings and I'll set my different options here. And then I'm going to come down to the membership area. Now, here it's going to ask how many students per group do we want, or how many groups do we want. So you can either create the groups by saying these are how many students I want per group, and it will automatically divide your students into a number of groups following that parameter. Or you can say, I want this number of groups, split my students evenly between those. So if you wanted to create groups with 3 students per group, you could say number of students per group 3. And then we come down to determine how to enroll any remaining members. So this is if it splits all the students up into the groups, but then it has 2 left over. How does it determine what those students will do? Do we want to distribute them among the groups that already exist, or do we want to put them into their own group so all the extras get put into a separate group, or do we want to go ahead and manually add them ourselves? I'm going to distribute them amongst the groups, so a couple of groups might have a couple extra people, and I'll click submit. And then here, when we look at our crazy groups, I have 4 groups, and because I have a number divisible by 3 for my students, they're each got 3 students in them. So you can see I said only put 3 people in each group, and it created 4 groups for me with 3 students each. And if I had, say, 15, say if I had 14 students in the course, one of these, 2 of these groups would actually have 4 members, because I told it to displace those people into the groups that already exist. Okay, group sets. Quick way to create a bunch of groups at once, as opposed to creating your groups individually. So let's take a look at some groups in action as far as creating assignments and whatnot. So let's look at, we're going to go and look at Team Blue here. We can see that they have a couple of group assignments already. How did I get those there? Those don't show up for all the students in the course. Those are only available to Team Blue. So when you create an assignment, I'm going to jump to my course content area, and I'm going to go to my assessments and create an assignment. Everything about this is our normal way of creating assignment until we get down to our grading area. We go to the submission details. And if you're familiar with this, you know you can come here to turn on safe assign. You can change how many attempts the student has to submit the assignment. But at the top, we have this assignment type, which by default is set to an individual submission, meaning each student submits the assignment. You can switch this to a group submission. And when you do that, it'll add these boxes that allow you to select which groups will have access to this assignment. So you could, in theory, say, I want multiple groups to have access to assignment, or you could just assign this assignment to one group. So I could say Team Blue, I'll move them over to the right hand side. Team Blue is going to have this assignment. Nobody else in any of the other teams will get it, just those people. Likewise, you could say, well, it's a group assignment, and I'm going to assign this to the crazy groups. So I'm going to take all 4 crazy groups, and I'll add them over here. So all the students in those 4 groups will get the assignment. If for some reason I have any student who's not in one of those groups, they won't see it. But more importantly, when a student in Crazy Group 1 submits the assignment, it gets submitted for all students in that group. And then, so they'll be getting a group grade. So I'll just real quick create a new assignment. I'll call it New Blue Assignment. And it's worth 100 points. I'm just skipping over some things here just for brevity's sake here, and I'll make it available, and I'm just going to go ahead and submit that. Scroll all the way down here. So for me as the instructor, things just I can see everything, but as a student, if I was part of the blue group and I logged in, I would see this new blue assignment. But if I wasn't in the blue group, I wouldn't see this blue assignment. So what does that look like in the grade center? Well, let's jump there real quick, and I'll give you a little view of what groups look like in your grade center. So if I scroll to my right here a little bit, we'll get to some group stuff. All right. So here we have some group assignments. Also, because we created some smart views, we see here this column for Team Blue. It shows me which students are inside Team Blue. The ones that are not are grayed out, and the ones that are have entries available. Now you can give a grade for being part of the team. So if your group is supposed to receive a group participation grade, then you could use that for adding a grade. I see a question in the chat. Is there a way for the entire class to see a group's assignment once it has been submitted? There is not. Unfortunately, if you wanted students to be able to say compare their group project or something like that, there isn't really a way for that to happen unless you create like a special regular area where students can then post their final assignment that they had gotten graded on. So they'd have to essentially post it twice, if that makes sense. But yeah, so they wouldn't be able to share their presentation or discussion to the other groups. It's only for those students in that group. So we can see here project flowchart has been submitted for Team Blue here, and all the students got a 75 except for this one student. Jane Doe, she's got a 90. What happened there? Well, when I viewed the assignment, I gave I gave the grade 75 and I applied it. But then I decided Jane did a little extra work. She organized the group. She put more effort in, and I wanted that to be reflected in her grade. So I came to the grade center and I changed her grade to a 90. So you can assign a different grade to each student if you want to. But when you initially grade the assignment, they will all get the same grade. So I will demonstrate that by going to this group presentation, which needs grading. And I'm going to go to the group attempt here. So here's the attempt that the group submitted, and this is just like grading anything else in the grade center. I can view the attempts, and then I can come over here to this attempt, and I can apply a grade. So we'll give this group an 80, and I'll apply that. And we can see 80 gets assigned to each member of that group for that assignment. I'm going to go back to the attempt. We could see grades appear for each of the students. But what if I want to change one or more of the student grades in this group? Well, we don't do it back in this area where we first applied the grade. If we change it here, it won't get applied to the grade center. Excuse me. What we have to do is come down to this group members section and click on this little pencil icon. That will allow you to change the individual grade for that student. You click on it, you edit the grade, and click the check mark to apply it. And we can see now that this student has an override grade of 100 while the others still have 80. Excuse me, a little scratchy throat this morning. I'm going to jump back to the full grade center. So when we look at our grade center here, we could see that this one student has 100 while the others have an 80. So this is for assignments, for discussion boards, wikis, journals, and blogs. When you have a graded, if you have a graded discussion board, wiki, or blog, those you create right in the group area. The regular assignments, though, you have to use that submission details section to apply it to a group. Okay, that was our whirlwind tour of the groups tool. Do we have any questions?
Hello, Ron.
Hello, Tatiana.
So I was curious if you have, one rubric where you grade everybody, but then if you had another rubric where the students graded each other on their participation or how much they contributed, and then the instructor would also want to be able to grade to give like a final grade. I'm not sure how you would include those kinds of rubrics in a group project.
Okay, well, that's a great question. Let's create, if we're talking about an assignment, we can do that through the assignments area. Let's start real quick and go to say a blog or even a wiki. So let's go to our groups area, and we'll use Team Blue again. They're popular. So we're gonna go to the group blog. Now, the students here could create blogs if they want to. Actually, let me before I even do that, let me go back to our groups. Let me go to the edits. So in our group options for Team Blue here, scroll down, here's my blogs area. So blogs is turned on, and I can see that we're going to apply a grade, and it's going to be 100. You could add any rubric you want to this. So if it's a rubric based on peer editing, the students, if you added a rubric and you allowed the students to if you allow the students to view the rubric with the scores, they would be able to look at the rubric in reference to the blog, and um, and you know, they could decide what the other the students that participated, what they should be able to get. Now, this only applies to the group, so students outside the group would be able to see this area. If you wanted students not associated with the group to be able to grade the group's blog, um, you'd have to probably not use a group for that and just use the blogs area and have very specific instructions on how the students should be working on that. But individually, as far as the groups go, if you assign a rubric to this blog area and allow the students to see the scores, they could then use that as a guide for judging each other's work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was thinking that there might actually, maybe you would have like two rubrics. So one would be, the writing, basically, the quality of the writing. But then
Sure.
a separate rubric.
You can always add multiple rubrics to an assignment, or a blog area, or what have you. We'll say we'll use the discussion board one as well. So you can always add multiple rubrics, and one will always, you can always set them both to be used for secondary evaluation, so they don't actually apply their points to the points possible, and then the students could just use those as guides, if that makes sense. Or you can use one as a grading option, and the other is just a secondary evaluation. Does that make sense?
Okay.
You could even add a third rubric if you wanted to, etc.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? That was a great question, by the way. Well, okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining me this morning. As always, if you have any technical issues or questions, you can email me at rhawk@nec.edu. I have a drop-in hour on Tuesday evenings at 6 p.m. and Thursdays at 10 a.m. And if you have any questions about best practices or course design, feel free to always reach out to our instructional designers. Are always happy to help. And have a great day, everybody.